A muscle twitch is one contraction of a muscle, just one. In reality, any motion that your body creates is the result of many muscle twitches working at once and working together. But if you're working in a laboratory setting and trying to test different models of muscle mechanics, we use this concept that's called the muscle twitch, right? So realize that a muscle twitch never occurs by itself in reality, but we have to use this concept of one contraction to discuss further concepts around muscle mechanics. So if we look at this graph, time is along the x-axis and tension is along the y-axis. So what this graph is showing you is that after a muscle is stimulated, it builds tension to a maximum point, and then it loses that tension as it starts to relax. Notice that there is a little bit of time in between the stimulus and when the muscle actually starts to create tension, right? This yellow area here, nothing is happening. Look, stimulus and tension doesn't start. This is correct. It's not a mistake. And this is what is called the latent period. This accounts for all of those events at the neuromuscular junction. Exocytosing acetylcholine into the synapse, it diffusing across the synapse, it creating depolarization on the motor end plate. Those events take time, and the latent period accounts for that time. The upslope on this graph corresponds with the phase in which the muscle is contracting, and all of those little cross bridges are forming and breaking as the sarcomere starts to shorten, right? So it's this upslope here that the sarcomere is shortening and tension is being built. This, the last phase in blue is the relaxation phase. And this is when the muscle is returning to its optimum length using gravity and elastic forces. Microscopically, this relaxation phase is when the calcium in the sarcoplasm of the muscle fiber is being reloaded into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And you can spell reloaded any way you want. But this relaxation phase is kind of like the let's wind up and do it again. The graph in the previous slide is what we would expect optimally from an average size muscle in your body having one muscle contraction. But in reality, larger muscles take a long time to get to their peak tension after the stimulus is applied compared to small muscles. For example, these like tiny little eye muscles that you need to react quickly, create movements very soon after the stimulus is applied, and they need to come to their maximum tension very, very quickly. Roll your eyes, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 4 or more muscles involved in that, and they all have to act pretty quickly. These muscles are also fast twitch muscles that we learned are more abundant in people who do sprinting. So your eyes are sprinters. Another example are muscles in your calf, like the soleus and the gastrocnemius, which are actually quite large muscles. They both take a really long time to get to their peak tension after the application of a stimulus. We also saw that these muscles are usually called slow twitch muscles and are more abundant in people who are fine-tuned for like marathon running rather than sprinting. So the time it takes a muscle to get to maximum tension is different depending on the purpose of the muscle. The one thing that you see in this graph that is not different for any of these muscles is the latent period. It doesn't matter what kind of muscle you are or where you are. Once the stimulus is applied, there is the same amount of time between the stimulus and the start of tension building. For all muscles in the body, the latent period is always the same. This process of releasing acetylcholine, exciting a muscle at the neuromuscular junction, it takes the same amount of time. There is one exception to that situation, of course, right? People who are longer than 6 feet tall, I'm 5 foot tall, you have nerves that are substantially longer than mine. Really. You have a 4 foot sciatic nerve where mine's like 3 because I'm so short, right? So it's all about that upper limit of 6 feet that takes just a fraction of a millisecond more for you to send an action potential down your leg into your foot. But as I said, it's only a fraction of a millisecond, so it's not even consciously noticeable. These graphs show what happens to a muscle when it is bombarded with action potentials and very little time between them to fully relax. So we're going through that latent period, the contraction phase, but we're not actually completing the relaxation phase. So these muscles are reflected in these graphs. The muscles here are experiencing a stimulus, not just one, but many stimuli. And they're going through the latent phase, going through the contraction phase, but not being allowed to go through that relaxation phase. On the graph on the left is what we call unfused or incomplete tetanus. This is where a muscle is given the chance to relax, but it's not given as much of a chance as it should have. As the muscle continues to be bombarded by action potentials, it starts from a higher level of tension every time, right? It's not starting from zero tension. It's starting from some. So every muscle twitch here, it increases the muscle tension until the muscle gets to a point where it's like, hey, I can't create any more tension. That's it. Can you please stop asking me to? I'll cycle around the maximum tension, but I can't keep at it. In the graph on the right, that is what we call fused or complete tetanus. And this is when there is no relaxation time offered to the muscle. And if there is some, it's not significant enough. The action potentials are coming so quickly, and they're bombarding this muscle with such frequency so soon after each other that this muscle has no chance to relax, right? In incomplete tetanus, there was some, but here in fused tetanus, there is none. And at some point, this muscle just comes to its maximum tension and stays there. It is in complete or fused tetanus that the muscle will make absolute maximum tension. As you can see in the graph about unfused tetanus, the muscle gets close to the maximum tension. It cycles around it, but it doesn't actually reach maximum tension. This situation over here on complete and fused tetanus is similar to the situation I talked about before with lockjaw, that the masseter muscle is in fused tetanus, and thus it's completely contracted. This is also how Botox works. Botox does this. It makes your muscles reach complete or fused tetanus. And in doing that, the muscles are not able to be excited more, creating pain signals. And this is also what creates the Botox face that looks like you can't move it. And you can't, because any of the muscles that got the Botox treatment are incomplete or fused tetanus.